What's up, North County? We got your backstage pass to all things music in the North County and beyond. I'm Sean Logan, and my co-host is Randy Doty.
What's up?
Today on the show, we have a doubleheader for you. We got Jake Duarte and Roger Siminoff. First up today is Jake. Jake, thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. Let's get a little started about when did you first start playing the drums?
I actually started late. I started when I was 22 in 95. And so, put a band together. We weren't very good, but we were playing bar shows and
What inspired you to go down the drum path?
I always loved the drums, but I was just kind of like, I don't know. And then I was at a buddy's house one day, and he was playing, and he had to leave, and he handed me the sticks, and he like, check them out if you want. And I sat down, I was watching what he was doing, and I was able to play the beat he played, and he comes running back in, and he goes, you ever played before? I said, no. He goes, you should. He picked that up pretty quick. So that summer, I was still riding BMX and went on tour and came home and bought a drum set for $300 and never looked back. So.
Right on. Do you play any other instruments?
No. I have 2 guitars. I can play a couple of chords, but nothing great.
I gotcha. Now, I know you've been in bands for quite a while, probably since '95, like you were talking about. What are the current bands you're in right now?
I play in Mother F-Bomb. I play in 4-Day Beard, Division 13, and now the Bunker Club.
Dang, that's a lot.
Bet. Well, in all honesty, Mother F-Bomb, we only play a couple times a year, so it's one of those things.
How do you balance being in all those different bands?
I don't know. I just do it. Just, we make schedules and go, okay, I can't play these dates, and I can play these dates, and then, usually 2 to 3 practices a week. And
are the genres pretty much the same, or do they differ per band?
All but 4-Day Beard. 4-Day Beard is like a mellow indie rock kind of thing, and everything else is kind of a form of like punk, rock and roll, stuff like that. I just wanted to mix it up a little bit, but they're all very different.
Are they mainly original driven, or is it covers and originals?
Mainly original. Like we'll do a handful of covers with Mother F-Bomb, but we do them Mother F-Bomb style. So they're
Which is what? What's Mother F-Bomb style?
just a little faster.
Okay.
Yeah. So we cover some Stones and some AC/DC, but it's mainly original. Like with the bands, we'll do like maybe 1 or 2 covers here or there, but I just enjoy doing original stuff.
Of course. Yeah. What about recording? Have you done any recording with those bands?
Yeah, in 2020, 4-Day Beard released an album, and then everything shut down, of course. And then Division 13, we've lately we'll like record like one-offs and just put them on all the platforms. But we're looking to record a full album this year, and 4-Day Beard, and then Mother F-Bomb, we released an album like in 2016. And then Bunker Club, we've been talking about maybe just throwing up like a little 3-song EP just to get something out there.
Yeah, with the day and age, back even a decade ago, it seemed like bands would just put out, go in the recording studio and put out a full album, but with today's social media and everything, even like the big heavy hitters might only put out 1 song a year or something like that.
Yeah.
Is that your guys' kind of philosophy moving forward, is maybe do it that way? Or?
That's how we have been doing it with Division 13, definitely. But we're all kind of chomping at the bit to do a full album, which would be cool. But I don't know, I'm hoping, like with 4-Day Beard, we usually have 8 songs per album. And so we're going to probably do about 10 with Division. I think people have kind of a short attention span, so, they're not going to sit and listen to a full album. But
where do you guys usually do the recording at?
With Division, we're lucky enough we have our own studio called Tantrum Records here in Atascadero. And and so we just do everything in-house. And then 4-Day Beard, we have a studio where we practice, and so we're going to record everything there. We recorded half the last album there, and the other half with a friend of ours. But yeah, I think now that we have the studio, I think Bunker Club's going to just go to Tantrum too. So, we're up and running, and we have people coming in recording, and it's pretty cool.
Have you ever had a show where you had multiple of your bands playing on the same show?
Just did that the other weekend.
Yeah.
Played 30 punk rock songs. I felt every bit of my age afterwards.
What's your favorite local venue to play at?
I love the Poorhouse. It's probably one of my favorites there. But I love Raconteur Room in Atascadero. It's a little place, but it's always a blast there.
Right, we were talking about that.
Yeah, and then like the Siren in Morro Bay is always cool.
Great stage, great lights.
Yeah, it's kind of since the old Slow Brew shut down. Like the Siren's kind of like like for me kind of took over that spot.
Sure.
But I mean, Poorhouse is going strong. Leslie's always bringing a lot of cool artists, and she lets us go there and make our noise, and she seems to like it, so it's cool.
Right.
She's got a lot of stuff coming through.
Yeah.
At the Poorhouse. I
She
mean,
does.
a lot of big wheels, a lot of name acts, and a lot of energy. I feel through that place there. Huh?
Yeah, it's great, and she's constantly trying to get people to show up and play, and yeah, I mean, her and her husband Jake, they love music, and so they're.
I feel like in the last year she's kind of tried to take it up a little bit and get some more maybe headliners coming through on an off day or something.
Oh yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, she's not afraid. She got some big punk bands. We had DRI in there.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty crazy. So.
Speaking of shows and stuff, can you tell us a story when you were guys playing out where something crazy or something went wrong on stage and how you guys got through it?
Not every show. Yeah, that would probably be like early on. Just a little too much boozing and not a whole lot of thinking ahead, and oh no, and no, nothing too crazy. You get your occasional broken string or a broken head or something like that. God, I'm trying to think.
What happens in that case? Like you mentioned a broken string. What happens? What do you do?
I like to just keep going, and a lot of times we'll do it. It's like, well, just play your part on other strings, or figure it out. What
happens when I do it is I'll just finish out the song, and if I'm playing a solo, obviously you're not using that string.
Yeah.
Or if you got chords, you're trying to use your mind real quick to think of, maybe you could play it a different way. But then once the song's over, I try and keep a spare guitar, just switch out real quick, or obviously bring extra strings with you.
And then as a drummer, I mean, if you lose one of these things, then
I got a holder. I got a little bag next to me with sticks. So I'll break them and just grab another one.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah, you just over the years you kind of learn snap one, grab another one, and start going.
Not miss a beat, huh?
Try not to.
What are 2 or 3 bands that you loved growing up, and 2 or 3 currently that you like?
God, growing up. Growing up, I loved metal. Iron Maiden was probably one of my favorite bands, And then once I got into punk, just too many to name, I guess. Current bands, I'm constantly changing it up and just falling in love with different stuff. But it's funny because I don't necessarily listen to a lot of the stuff that I play. I'll listen to a lot of really mellow stuff. Like lately, it's been yacht rock, or I'll listen to old R&B. Just stuff like that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. For me, back when I was younger, it was pretty much just heavy metal, hard rock. And if you didn't fall on that, in my eyes, you were wrong.
Yeah.
But as I've grown, I've come to open up and appreciate more of the different genres and stuff like that. Sounds like it's kind of like the same way for you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, once I started playing punk, you kind of have that attitude of like, that everything sucks, and then years later, when I played in the Small Kicks, I remember I was learning some Bruce Springsteen songs, and in my mind, I'm like, I could do this, and I owe Mr. Max Weinberg a big apology because he took me to school that day. I sat there, I come out of the garage, my wife's like, sound like you're struggling a little bit. I'm like, yeah, can I cuss? So I'm an a-hole. I've been humbled. So.
Back to the internet and things locally. How do you feel the internet has impacted like the local music scene?
Not a lot of paper flyers anymore. We used to go out there and stick them on cars and stick them on businesses and stuff. You can just, it's a great advertising tool. That's mainly what I use Facebook for, is just promoting my bands or friends' bands or whoever's playing. It's
one thing
cool.
that I've noticed is like, in the bands that I have, we've made music and put CDs out, but the problem now is most people don't even have a CD player.
No.
So you got to hand them a CD and they're like, oh, thanks, I don't have anything to play it on,
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like the biggest struggle, along with, just overall music in general, like how people go about getting new music,
Mm-hmm.
That's what I kind of find.
Yeah, I usually use Spotify, but 4 Day Beard, we released our album on vinyl, and vinyl's like kind of made a huge comeback.
Wow, really?
Oh yeah, like it's huge. I can't believe how expensive records are, but it's there's nothing like the sound of vinyl. I'll put something on at home on the turntable, and it just sounds amazing.
No kidding.
So I've whatever albums we do release going forward, I'd like to just put them all out on vinyl. Just
vinyl only, or in addition?
Yeah, just vinyl. And then everything would just be on, whatever platform, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube.
Yeah, they used to have download cards, where you could at least hand those out, but they don't even do that anymore, So it's tough to get your music, other than playing out, it's tough to get your music to the people listening to you.
Yeah.
What could you say is the best advice musically that you've been given since '95 when you started?
Yeah, best advice. Just be prepared. Show up prepared.
Yeah. As far as your drumming style goes, who would you kind of compare yourself to, famous drummer-wise, that we would know? Or people have said you remind them of so-and-so.
Yeah, I love Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers, so I like playing a lot of funky stuff when I'm not playing the punk stuff. But I don't think I really play like anybody. I had a guy at one of our shows tell me I reminded him of Ginger Baker because I was doing a lot of tom work.
Oh, okay.
But and I listened to Cream and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about all that, but that's cool. There's so many great drummers out there, and I go out there and do it, and I'll watch videos and go, well, I can't do that, but I could play my songs like me, I guess. So,
Back to streaming and things like that. When you listen to music in your car or when you're working during the day, what platform do you like to go to? Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music, or do you just go local station?
I mainly use Spotify. Get the premium, so no commercials. It just seems easiest. But I still have a lot of stuff on iTunes on my phone, so the dinosaur iTunes.
Yeah, I'm always interested to see what people, what they kind of listen to find out what's going currently,
Well, I like Spotify because, as soon as the album's done, it'll start playing you albums from bands, genres that are similar. And I find a lot of new bands that way where I'm like, who is this? This is great.
Yeah, that is a good feature. I like that too.
Do you find a lot of people are listening to Spotify more so than Apple, or is what'd you say? Is Pandora still a thing?
Yeah.
It is.
Is it?
I like to ask that question when we play out, and it just you'll get different responses at every venue, And it kind of, I guess, it depends on the age of the crowd too, because we'll have people from 20 to old, so it can really vary depending on the venue. I find, I don't know about you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I use Spotify, and I just figure everybody does, but I think my daughter uses like Apple Music, so.
I think Spotify is kind of like the Kleenex, maybe, as far as the name, hey, you listen to your music on Spotify, you might listen to it on YouTube or something like that. I just recently learned Spotify, so I'm new to it.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah, a lot of people go to YouTube too, so I'm sure I'm missing other ones that, I don't know, show my age, I guess. But.
Can you describe your favorite and least favorite part about being a musician?
Just jamming with all my bands, just jamming with the guys. I mean, that was from the beginning, just sitting in a room and making noise and playing live shows. Those are always it is like when you play a good live show, I get home and I can't sleep. I'm still bouncing off the wall till 1 a.m.
Right.
And least favorite is probably being a drummer, having to haul all my crap in there. The drum set has gotten smaller over the years.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, it seems like you've got the one top and the floor tom.
Yeah, it's like 4-piece, like jazz setup.
Yeah, did you ever have like a bigger setup back in the day when you started?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had two mounted toms, 2 floor toms, double kick pedal. Never was cool enough to have 2 bass drums. That was a lot to carry. So, and then more cymbals, but now it's just ride hats and 2 crashes.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like going to the gig. You have the excitement, the energy for the gig. So you set everything up, you do the gig, have a good time. Afterwards, people are wanting to talk to you. Have a drink with you. And what's over there? Your gear that you got to tear down and put in your car. So,
yeah, definitely. I'm big on, like, as soon as I'm done, I'll just grab my stuff and move it, because usually there's another band playing. I mean, if not, then we'll let it ride. I'll go have a beer and BS with everybody. But yeah, usually just kind of band etiquette, just get it off the stage, and then okay, let's have at it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any hobbies or interests outside of music that you've been doing?
No, we were playing golf for a while there, but we haven't played in probably like 8 months. So, just work a lot. I'm kind of, my wife joked one day and she goes, it's nice that we're just kind of getting old and boring. I said, yeah, I do enjoy just sitting at home, and, we just hang out on the porch and have some drinks and listen to music at night. I'm not out there looking for the party, but no, not a whole lot of hobbies anymore. Just drumming. I'm busy enough with drums that it takes most of my time.
Gotcha. What about upcoming? Do you have any upcoming shows that you want to talk about?
Yeah, we're playing. 4-Day Beard's going to play February 16th at the Raconteur Room. And I think we're going to play with a couple of bands from Bakersfield. I don't know who they are yet. But we'll, as soon as I find out, we'll put them up on social media. And then Division 13, we're playing with Steve Caballero from the Bones Brigade's new band Urethane at Poorhouse, and that'll be February 23rd. So that should be a lot of fun. They're a great band.
Great. Well, I think we're up against a commercial break, but thanks for coming in, Jake. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
When we come back, we'll have Roger Siminoff. See you in a minute.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
And we're back with your Backstage Pass. I'm Sean Logan, and again, my co-host is Randy Doty.
What's up?
We have a double header. So next up, we've got Roger Siminoff coming in. Thanks for coming in, Roger.
Thanks for having me, Sean. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
You have quite a storied career in life with music.
Rather eclectic, I think, yeah.
Yeah. What inspired you to pursue the career, and how did it all begin?
Good question. I think I first fell in love with the banjo when I was 16 and was enamored by the fact that it was this metal mechanical thing that you could take apart and put together. And I picked up the banjo and started playing it back when I was 16, 17, and got into a band when I was 18, 19. And it just sort of got me started in the world of music. But of course, I ventured later more into the making of instruments side and publications and the magazine side of business, more teaching and reporting about it than playing it. But I was in a bunch of bands through the years and still go to a jam every month and got to keep my fingers going.
I noticed in your bio that it mentioned at an early age you were inventing things, some of which received patents.
Yeah.
Can you explain how you did all that at such a young
again,
age?
mechanical interest, but the development of several patents, which have been licensed to many manufacturers, which I can describe. Really just came out, again, my mechanical interest in musical instruments, how to make them work better, how to make them function better. I did things like a component guitar that snapped together like a camera, where you could change necks and bodies and pickups, and license that to Gibson. Yeah, it was interesting. Someday I'll show you the prototype. Licensed that to Gibson back a bunch of years ago. My first patent was for a truss rod, a vertebrae type truss rod, which is the structure that goes inside a string musical instrument's neck to keep the neck straight to counter the bending force of the strings that want to force the neck into a hollow, the low spot in the center. And I received the patent for a link system, and Gibson, within a very short time, a guy named Bruce Boland, who was the VP of Gibson then, is an incredible musician, and he is a diehard for necks being absolutely straight and staying that way. And they picked up on the truss rod and implemented it and put it in a bunch of instruments, and that sort of one thing led to another, and before you knew it, I was involved with Gibson on consulting and working on several projects relative to my patents. So that was pretty fun.
So growing up, did you have a history of wanting to take stuff apart and figure out?
Yeah, I did. I was always taking something apart, building go-karts out of gasoline lawnmowers and always doing mechanical things. I loved that. That was really important to me. And it continued. I went to Parsons School of Design as an industrial designer when I was in college, so that kind of helped me define and refine some of the beautiful points of mechanical things: design, shape, color, form. And I've just been involved ever since doing mechanical things, but they all relate to music. They're all in some way tied into either strings or instruments or necks or how to build instruments, that kind of thing. So
did you have any, your parents or family members, were any of them musically inclined?
No, it's interesting that we think so much of musicians coming up with families of music, but my dad played very little piano. I don't mean a little tiny piano, I mean very little of it when he played it. Played very little piano, and my mom or brother or sister didn't play any instruments. It was just something I got into because I really got intrigued by the 5-string banjo and how it worked and how it played. And it was pretty interesting for me.
You mentioned that by high school you were in bands and whatnot.
Yeah.
Well, why do you think you didn't kind of go down the avenue of hey, I want to be a musician, I want to do that, instead of the path you went?
I did want to be, and then I started in a band called the Orange Mountain Boys, which had, as it turns out, some rather prominent musicians that stemmed from it. When I left to go to school, the banjo player was Pete Wernick, who took over for me. This is back in New Jersey. Pete has become a very prominent banjo player artist. The mandolin player was Bobby Applebaum, very today prominent mandolin player. The violin player in our band was Gene Lowinger, who actually played with Bill Monroe for several years. And so the group was really very formidable in its time, especially in the New York area, where bluegrass in the 60s and in the early and mid 60s were really on a huge growth curve in New York City. A lot happening. Most people think of bluegrass music coming out of the Southeast, right. But there was a huge movement up from New York up through Boston with musicians just sprouting up left, right, and center in bluegrass bands. So
well, when you really got into manufacturing some of these instruments,
yeah.
at what point did it kind of really take off, and you thought to yourself, well, I can do this as a living?
So it actually started when I wanted to finally get a banjo, like a good banjo. I got a Gibson banjo, but it was a tenor banjo. It was a 4-string neck, a shorter 4-string neck, which is what the tenor version is. And I wanted to play 5-string banjo, and the only way to do that was to make a 5-string banjo neck for the banjo. Beauty of the banjo is you can just bolt on a neck if it's properly fitted and shaped and sized. And that led to building another banjo neck for another friend, and before you knew it, I was in the banjo neck business. And within 10 years, I actually started a company called Siminoff Banjo and Mandolin Parts, and was making parts in my home that grew. And we actually, believe it or not, just closed the business 6 years ago. So that was almost 60 years of running, of making musical instrument parts, mandolin and banjo parts for doing that. Primarily then for the New York area, but once of course we're in California now, but once the business got started and got rolling, we were selling to people in Australia and England and around the world. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the deciding factor to go from New York, New Jersey area into California?
A good job. I had started a magazine in New Jersey called Pickin' Magazine, because my avocation was music, my vocation was printing, design, and graphics. And my partner and I, because of my interest in bluegrass music, we decided that we know everything about publishing, which we didn't, and that we were going to go in the magazine business, which was kind of fun. And we started a magazine called Pickin'. And within 3 years, it had grown to be a really formidable magazine with almost 25,000 subscribers, which was magic at the time, with really good renewal rates, which was magic at the time. But the good news is bluegrass was growing and old-time country music was growing. And because of that, we had an incredible audience to be able to speak to. And Pickin' Magazine really grew well. I then sold it to a New York publisher called North American Publication. And I did that because I got hired by a California publisher in Cupertino to start Frets Magazine. And Frets was part of the GPI Publications group, which was Guitar Player Magazine, Keyboard, Frets, and those three books. So that's what got me out. They hired me and kind of pulled me out of New Jersey to the Bay Area.
Did you have a background in writing? I mean, it's one thing to know all the...
Yeah, thank you. I developed a background in writing. I loved writing poems, and I loved mixing words and creating nice themes and ideas. And I got into writing, and I still, to this day, and still do a lot of writing. But the biggest part about developing the magazine was understanding the publishing business, not the writing business, and being able to know how to get to artists and be able to interview them properly, as you're doing, and you're doing a great job. And being prepared for interviews and knowing how to then, how do you have a budding magazine that has no image base, no photograph base, where do you get photos? So my partner had the idea to start an annual photo contest where we would do photos of artists that people would submit to us from festivals, and the winner would be on the front cover of I think it was the April issue, I'm not sure. Well, the cool thing is we got thousands of photographs, and all of a sudden we had this huge database of photographs of every bluegrass artist, and taken from every direction on every stage in the country, wearing every colored jacket you could imagine. So learning how to build a magazine and how to handle renewals and returns and build a subscription base, that was like the hard part for us, to getting to do that. But it was pretty exciting. We learned by the hard way, but we learned a lot of cool things. Can I tell a little story about that?
Of course, go ahead.
There was a show going on with Sonny and Bobby Osborne at the Lincoln Center in New York, which is the big performing arts center. And we took 6 or 7 of our people, threw them in our station wagon, printed a bunch of brochures about Pickin' Magazine. We all stood outside the doors outside Lincoln Center when the show was over, and handed out flyers to everybody. And on the way back in our Chevrolet station wagon, one of the people sitting there said, "We didn't put our phone number and address on this." It was like the best joke in town. How do you tease all those people? We gave out all the flyers, but no one knew where do you subscribe to this magazine. That's how you learn about publishing. They finally found us, though, which was good. But we didn't have an internet then, but that's how it turned out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you ever build an instrument for any famous bands or musicians that we may know
So I
of?
built lots of parts for famous bands and for famous musicians, not for bands, but for singular people. I've done a lot of things. Some of them where my patented products got off to modify them, and some of them out of close personal favors for people that fortunately, and I don't want to be a name dropper, but there's certainly things that you and your audience would like to hear about. People like Earl Scruggs, who over the years had become a very good friend. He was a columnist on a magazine, so I was dealing with him monthly. I had the great pleasure of writing the liner notes for one of his albums called America Made, World Played. And he and Louise and my wife and I got to be good friends. And Earl was just then doing a song called Chariots of Fire. And he had tuners on his banjo that would detune a string while he was playing it. So you'd go down, down. And at the end of Chariots on Fire, there's a part of the lick goes down, down, down. Had 3 of these turn down notes. Well, the last turn down note is on his 4th string, which is a wound string. And as you would know, as a guitarist, wound strings don't like to move back and forth over a nut. If you're tuning them, detuning them, they don't necessarily come back up to pitch. So I made for him a nut, which is the part that holds the strings right where the neck ends and you go out to where the tuning posts are. I made one with a little roller on it, a little tiny, like a piece of jewelry. And the little roller would allow the string to move back and forth on the nut.
Huh.
So I've done things like that, little tiny things, and made bridges for Earl that were kind of exciting for an article we worked on. So to answer your question, yes, I'm sorry to be windy.
No, those are the kind of stories that are
information
great.
for
Fun. Can you go into a little bit more detail about your history with Gibson?
Yeah, my history with Gibson started in kind of 2 different points. One, I became very interested in a guy who worked at Gibson in the 1920s called Lloyd Lohr. And I was doing a lot of research about him. And while I had started my magazine, I took a few trips out to the Gibson facility in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and met with 2 of their historians, a guy named Julius Belson and another guy, Uncle Wilbur Marker, and was asking him stories about both Gibson so we could do articles about Gibson. I got to know people there. And about Lloyd Lohr because I was interested in things that Lohr did when he was working at Gibson in the 20s. And when I was there, I met Bruce Boland, who I mentioned before, who was the artist relations VP and product development VP. He was the guy who was Les Paul's liaison to Gibson, and Chet Atkins when Chet was connected with Gibson and B.B. King and others, Mike Elliott, people like that. And it was from that when I did my first patent for truss rods, I met Bruce at a trade show called the NAM show, National Association Music Merchants. And I said, hey, I've got a truss rod. And I said those words and his eyes lit up, said, what does it do? How does it work? I said, I guess you want to keep fretboards straight or something like that. I do. And then I was immediately flown out to meet with him at the home office in Lincolnwood, Illinois, which is a suburb northwest of Chicago. And that started, once I did that, I got involved in the component guitar design patent, a little crank winder, which was, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but a little handle that phones out of a tuning knob, and so you could crank it up, have it, when you're putting your string on, instead of sitting there turning it up, you actually can fold that little handle and tune the string up. Right. And Gibson took that and licensed that for about 8 years and put it on a bunch of Les Paul guitars. I had an adjustable nut that allowed each string position to be anchored. So one thing led to another, and before I knew it, I was at Gibson's plant almost once a month for a period of 16 years until they moved to Nashville in 1985 and 6. It took a 2-year time for them to do that. Once they moved to Nashville, I was still doing the work for them, but the management changed. And when the new management came in, they actually got rid of a lot of their licenses and patents, which cut me off at the knees and a bunch of other people too. So a lot of those licenses stopped at that time, and as did my continued work and relationship with Gibson at that period. But that was an exciting run. One of the most fun things, may I?
Go ahead, of course.
There was a mandolin that this gentleman named Lloyd Lohr, who I mentioned, was involved in designing. The world thought he was a builder, but he was really an instrument designer, an acoustical engineer, actually. And it was part of the Gibson's Master Model Series, which included the F5 mandolin, L5 guitar, H5 mandola, K5 mandocello, those instruments. And I had talked to the people at Gibson in all of my trips out there. Finally, let's go back and redo it the way they did it in the 20s. And I kept getting pushed off. In fact, there's a great story that I'll add to this, but I kept getting pushed off by everybody like, no, we're never going to do that. We're making these. And I had one day that Stan Rendell, who was the president of Gibson, called me in his office. And he had a cadenza behind his desk. And the only instrument that would stand up on it was an F5 mandolin, a little thing. And he started screaming at me that you're just driving everybody crazy. You keep wanting to go back. He grabbed the instrument by the scrub of the neck. He said, this is the finest mandolin in the world. And just stop it. You're getting everybody going crazy about it. We should go back and do them differently. And I figured, okay, I'm a consultant. If you want to, you can I didn't say that, but if you want to, you can fire me and I'm not on payroll. But it turns out that he retired about 4 months later, and Jim Derlew, who's the plant manager, immediately started a program to go back and rebuild the mandolins as we did before, with me leading the pack on that. And we got into developing a series of really beautiful instruments in 1978 that were announced at the 78 NAMM show in Chicago then. So that was a really deep involvement project. In fact, then I was flying back once every 2 weeks to be there for 2 days or so.
Wow.
I was even carving the soundboards and backboards on my pattern carver that I had because Gibson wasn't set up to do it. But anyway, it was an exciting trip. Gibson was a great place to work with.
That's a great story.
Why do you think your boss that retired?
Yeah, Stan Randall.
Why do you think he was so adamant about not wanting to?
Well, I think I was talking to too many people about let's go back and do this the way we did before. I'm not in the position to tell people at Gibson, let's go back and do this. My hope was to get people like Bruce Bowen and Jim Derlew and Julius Belson, who was the historian then, to kind of be behind this sea change, to be able to come in and say, hey, why don't we try that? Why don't we go back and do it like we did it? So this is funny. Do I have time for?
Yeah.
So we brought these instruments out. We made 3 prototypes. We brought them out at the NAMM show in June of 1978 in Chicago. And during the meetings, they invited me in to the different sales groups. There were about 8 sales teams. There was the Australian sales team, the Chinese sales team, the sales team from Canada. So each one of them go through this presentation. We go through, here's the F5 mandolin, here's what the new features are, and talked about the features. And after that, Jim came up and said, we've got 2 of them we finished for the show, even though we built 3, only 2 of them made it to the show. The other one needed some finish work. He said, which one do you like the best? I said, well, probably this one. He said, okay. He said, then we're going to hang this one out on the rack in the show, take this one home. I thought, well, that's pretty nice. I said, but no, if you're going to hang the nicest one out there, take the one I want to take, hang that one there. And he said, it's going to get wrecked. People are going to hit it and pick it and drag it against their clothes. I said, it's the better of the 2, put it there. So I thought that was pretty interesting that they gave me an instrument. And I found out that night when we had dinner that they actually had no intention of making more of those mandolins. The advertising campaign in 1978 was going back to the heritage. And they wanted to show that they could build them like the heritage. But those 3 mandolins were for show. It was like to say, hey, look, we could do it like we did it before.
But we're not going to.
Until after the show, 2 weeks after the show, they had more orders for mandolins than they had in 40 years.
Wow.
So all of a sudden, it was a real project. And then I remember Jim calling me on the phone, actually saying, you need to come back out. We've got to get into production and do these. I said, production to do what? He said, we're going to be building the F5L. We need you to come back. So it was that kind of exciting little spark that brought on this flurry of stuff. And they've continued some of the heritage today into what they're doing. There are people there, they're carrying on the art. It's been really fun.
Well, let's hit a commercial break, and then we'll be back with Roger Siminoff to hear more of his stories.
Hi, this is Dave Story, small game hunter with Story Termite and Pest. We're a full-service termite and pest control company. From rodents to termites, we can take care of all your pest control needs. Call today, we can tailor a pest control program that will meet your needs and budget. Contact us at 805-460-0650 or at storytermite.com. Remember, we don't have customers, we have friends.
Hi, welcome to Kennedy Club Fitness, where we have something for everyone. We have weights, cardio, group exercise classes, racquetball, basketball, swimming, and pickleball coming soon. Here at Kennedy, we're committed to health, wellness, and community. Stop by any of our 4 locations: Paso Robles, Atascadero, San Luis Obispo, and Arroyo Grande, or check out our website at kennedyclubs.com.
Hey guys, we're back with your backstage pass again with Roger Siminoff. Roger, got a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
You had mentioned the NAMM show.
Yeah.
Have you been down to NAMM lately or anything like that?
That's a really good question. I missed 2 NAMM shows in 52 years.
Oh my God.
One of them was last year, and one was the year before last year because of COVID, and one was about 6 years prior to that. And I was going to go this year, which was this past weekend.
Right.
And I've been a member of NAMM, and my company's been a member of NAMM for a long time. And I went on to sign up to get my member badge, which was always free, and it's now $450.
Oh my God.
And I was going to go with another friend who's gone with me for a bunch of years. And I called up my liaison there and said, where are my badges? He said, no, they're $450.
Oh my God.
So I don't know what the attendance looked like, but I did not go to the NAMM show this year, and I miss it because all my friends, people I've known for years and grew up in the business with them, people that I mentioned before, Jim Daddario of Daddario Strings, who I knew the day one when he started in business. Pickin' Magazine was the first magazine he ever advertised in with Daddario Strings. I know him from Ground Zero. And to knock it down, have a chance to have dinner, say hello, walk through the show hurts. So
I guarantee you, if they did that, which obviously they did, it's going to really come back and bite them.
absolutely.
I guarantee you.
The attendance used to be huge. I have a feeling you probably could bowl there easily this year without hitting anybody.
Yeah, our drummer had mentioned that he had heard like some of the big drum manufacturers just weren't even going.
Yeah.
I attributed it to maybe still leftover from COVID, but maybe it has more to do with,
I think it has more to do with money.
yeah.
That's a shame.
How about your transition into manufacturing strings? How did all that come about?
Oh boy, you've done some good digging. I've always been interested in music strings, and when I was working for Gibson, I was involved in designing some two sets of strings for them. One was called the Equa strings that all had equal tension at the bridge, which was a really bad idea. And we learned that it was a bad idea, but it was better than the ridiculous different tensions that were in different gauges of sets that other brands had. The second thing I developed for Gibson was called Gibson Grabbers, and that was a string that had a little teeny pin at the end of the string. Did you ever know those? Did you ever hear them?
Yeah.
Little teeny pin at the end that you could stick if an acoustic flat top guitar, just stick the ball down the hole, push the pin in, stick the pin in the post, and just tighten it up. There was nothing to cut. There was nothing to pull out. It was a really super thing that went on very well, again, until Gibson got to Nashville and until the Justkowitz brothers cut off all the licenses with people. And I kept talking about strings to my daughters who were, in the last couple of years, were running our business. And they always said, you always talk about strings you did, but you never did them for us. So I figured, okay, so I'll do a set of strings for us. But that followed on the heels of designing the strings for Santa Cruz Guitar Company, up in obviously Santa Cruz, and for Richard Hoover there. And then I had some ideas on things to improve for acoustical steel strings, and just went into that. It's been highly successful in what we've been doing ever since. Yeah, we call them straight up strings if I'm allowed to have a plug.
How did you eventually make it to the Central Coast?
That was, again, being hired by the publisher who wanted me to come out to Cupertino.
So from that transition came
that transition was just one big move from New Jersey to California.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you have anything coming up that you'd like to talk about or promote?
I try not to talk about things not to promote. One of the things, though, that I'm very happy about, the guy Lloyd Lohr, who I mentioned before, who was an acoustical engineer and a musician who worked at Gibson, doing very much like what Les Paul did, except Les Paul lived in Mahwah, New Jersey, and went to the plant rarely, and Lloyd Lohr lived in Kalamazoo and was at the plant daily. They were both musicians, who had ideas for making instruments work better, play better, be more fun. And I recently did a book on the life and work of Lloyd Loyer that took almost 40 years of research from when I told you my earliest days of starting to put information and building files on his life to eventually meeting his widow, which was an incredible experience, and caring for her in her later years until her passing in '98. And I just finished that book a few months ago called The Life and Work of Lloyd Loyer, and it's I'm very, very excited about the book, the effort put into it, and quite honestly, I'm so happy about kind of getting the burden off my back about carrying that information around, never sharing it, never organizing it. In fact, it was during COVID that my wife said, we're going to be home a lot. Why don't you pull out those folders on Lloyd Loyer? And we started laying things around the house chronologically, and all of a sudden, we're both walking and saying, hey, this is a story here. We know where he was there and there and there, and who he worked with here, and it came together as a text that I'm just absolutely enamored with. So, really, really exciting.
For those people who are interested in getting that, how do they go about purchasing that?
My website is Siminoff Books. Thank you, SiminoffBooks.com. SIMINOFF books.com. And if they want to see that or some of the other books I've done, they can find it there.
How about strings? How do people get strings?
The company for that is called Straight Up Strings, all one word, Straight Up Strings. And that's straightupstrings.com. We do strings only for acoustic instruments. And we do them for flat top guitar, for resophonic guitar, which some people call a dobro, banjo, mandolin, and we're soon to release mandola strings here. So that'll be coming up pretty soon.
Great. Well, Roger, some of those stories are really awesome. Thanks for coming in. We appreciate
Thank you for inviting me. Really appreciate you guys having me.
Well, we got a commercial break. Let's go ahead and hit that right now.
What's up, North County? Nate Santos here, owner of Santos Bros Plumbing. You might recognize me with my dancing horses at local events such as the Atascadero Tamale Festival, Templeton 4th of July, and Paso Pioneer Day. I am now available for all your home plumbing service and repair needs, from minor drips and drops to emergency leaks and clogs. For the best plumbing service, call Santos Bros Plumbing, pipe wranglers to the rescue.
Atascadero isn't your standard getaway. We're unique, just like you. We're growing, transforming, and figuring it out as we go. We're a town filled with innovators, artists, makers, and game changers. We're a little bit country, a little bit funky, and always authentic. We're here for your good times, your slow times, and your changing times. We're all in Atascadero. Come see for yourself. Learn more at visitatascadero.com.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us. We'd like to thank our guests today, Jake Duarte and Roger Siminoff, for coming into the show. We'd also like to thank our sponsors, which include Escalar Wines, Santos Brothers Plumbing, Wine Travelers Hideaway, Kennedy Club Fitness, Visit Atascadero, 805 Customs, Airflow Filter Service, Pacific 805 Spas, Hanson Enterprises, Borhone Auto Center, and Story Termite and Pest Control. Tune in next Tuesday at 6 p.m. and we'll have Robbie Lochner, who's the guitarist for the Jack Russell Great White Band. We'll also have local musician Dan Ernest, who also has a music store in San Luis. We'll see you next week, and thanks for tuning in.
Hi, this is Dave Story, small game hunter with Story Termite and Pest. We're a full-service termite and pest control company. From rodents to termites, we can take care of all your pest control needs. Call today, we can tailor a pest control program that will meet your needs and budget. Contact us at 805-460-0650 or at storytermite.com. Remember, we don't have customers, we have friends.
Hi, welcome to Kennedy Club Fitness, where we have something for everyone. We have weights, cardio, group exercise classes, racquetball, basketball, swimming, and pickleball coming soon. Here at Kennedy, we're committed to health, wellness, and community. Stop by any of our 4 locations: Paso Robles, Atascadero, San Luis Obispo, and Arroyo Grande, or check out our website at kennedyclubs.com.
3, 2, 1.
Atascadero isn't your standard getaway. We're unique, just like you. We're growing, transforming, and figuring it out as we go. We're a town filled with innovators, artists, makers, and game changers. We're a little bit country, a little bit funky, and always authentic. We're here for your good times, your slow times, and your changing times. We are all in Atascadero.